We'll be heading over to Cherokee later on this afternoon. There's a big, it's a Jimmy V showcase that
right. That's a big tournament.
Eric Cassidy hosts over at Cherokee. Kind of does it in memory of his mom who passed away from cancer. So it's a all-day event. They got 2 gyms over there at Cherokee, so there'll be some decent games this afternoon. I guess things start around 10 o'clock, 10:30 this morning.
Nice. Who's the showcase game for that event?
I'm really looking at there's 2 games kind of on my radar, and one being Camden against Millville. An opportunity to see what Camden's really all about, and Millville, and a team that I think a lot of people think can be a serious contender in Group 4. And then really the big game for me would be the Haddonfield game against Camden Catholic at 5:30. You got Haddonfield, defending Group 2 state champion, comes in with 4 of its 5 returning starters, including basically its 4 top players, against the Camden Catholic team that won the South Jersey non-public A title last year, and returns 2 tremendous more defensive players than offensive in their careers, but in Uki Okafor and Baba Ajiki. So it should be a good game, and that's what these weekends are for. These weekends are for showcases. The weekends are for matchups against high quality, higher echelon teams, and nothing better than to get it started on opening weekend.
Those 2 guys you mentioned, man, there's some really good players, man. I saw them last year against I think they were playing against Holy Spirit at the Seagull. The one guy, Okafor, I think is that who you mentioned?
Right. Okafor and Ajiki.
He's what, about 6'7", 6'8", something like that?
They're both right around 6'6". One might be a smidge taller, but Ajiki is more of the offensive player between the 2 guys, but as far as defensive presence in the paint, they play a little bit bigger than 6'6".
Yeah, no doubt. There's some serious rim protectors.
Yeah, they're 2 kids that have been in the program for a while. Okafor was hurt for a little while the last couple of years, but if Camden Catholic is to be another team to contend in that non-public A, they're going to have to get the most out of both of those guys this year.
Kevin, what's going on at Haddonfield, man? What do they got? Some kind of athletic training program going on, and for the 4th and 5th graders, they're turning out some outstanding athletes. Seems like they're great at every sport.
Haddonfield, and you're on the money right there. Haddonfield, as far as the Group 2 programs are concerned in the state, they're year in and year out have been near the top of the list, if not at the top. And it's a town that kids get started early. They want to play for their town team. They go and see, when they're in 4th, 5th, 6th grade, they go and see their, these other, these high school kids playing, and they, want to one day do the same thing. So, they're not, very rarely does Haddonfield have a major superstar player. You'd have to go back to the likes of Brian Zubek and Matt Maloney for probably the 2 biggest individual stars, but they're a program that relies on guys that play their roles and play their roles very well. They don't do anything out of the ordinary. They do basically what they do best, and it all comes together. So you can't argue with the success they've had. 29-4 last year in a Group 2 championship. So Paul Wiedemann, he went to Haddonfield. He played at Haddonfield. He knows what it's all about, and he's continued to mold this, these future generations into winning teams.
Kind of reminds me of back in the 90s, I used to work for a newspaper called the Co-Star in Manasquan, and very similar towns, real tight-knit communities, little downtown areas. People just kind of don't leave those towns, and they grow up, they can say, I went to Haddonfield, or I went to Manasquan back in 88, and just really good at all the sports, baseball, football, basketball, girls basketball, field hockey. I mean, it's kind of weird how they're very far apart in terms of distance, but very similar towns.
Yeah, I think the fact of the matter is it is a town. It's not a city. It's not a big municipality. It's a pretty small town, and there's the townspeople take great pride in what members of their community do, and they come out and they support them. And And these kids, are all they all know each other. It's not a school of 1,500 kids where you pass somebody in the hallway and you have no idea who he is. Basically, Haddonfield is. Yeah,
you went to third grade with that kid,
Right. I mean, Haddonfield, these kids know each other. I'm not saying everybody likes each other, but I'm saying that they know each other, and there's that tight-knit community bond, and you have these kids growing up playing similar sports together. And, if you're playing, if you have essentially the same, core group of kids playing together since they were third and fourth grade, well, by the time they get to 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, they should pretty much know each other. And that's the way it is at Haddonfield. They do, these kids on the basketball floor, they know what to expect from each other. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. So they play to the strengths, and they take full advantage of it, This year they got a little bit more size than I think they've had in a while. But, they're a team that, you could physically look at them and match them up with someone else and say, man, they have no shot. And then they come out and they win the game by 15. So, like I said, if Paul Wiedemann gets these kids to execute the way they need to execute, they're a team that, obviously we're only in day 2 of the season, but come the end of February into March, they're still playing, and a lot of teams aren't.
Talk with Kevin Minnick of NJ Advanced Media. Check out all his stuff on NJ.com. And Kevin, it was funny. I was talking to Mike McGarry, and we were saying how great Wildwood Catholic is, and I said, you got them in your number 1 in your Elite 11. He's like, no. Who you got ahead of them? He's like, Haddonfield and Camden. So there's definitely some other quality teams out there. It's going to be. I think there's going to be a lot of movement from week to week in these top 10s, top 15 type of things, because these teams are all going to be playing each other, and there's going to be some tough losses here and some rebound wins there.
Yeah, I haven't done a South Jersey top 10 or 20, but Mike's right. And in our state rankings, Haddonfield came in at 12, Camden at 13, and Wildwood Catholic at 16. And, like you said, these showcases are an opportunity for these teams to get better, play better competition than a lot of them are going to face in their leagues, and play teams, that are upper echelon teams throughout the state and potentially out-of-state teams as well. So, we shouldn't, we do rankings and people love rankings, and they love the debate of where teams are in the rankings each week. But in the grand scheme, it really doesn't matter where you're at in the ranking now. It matters at the end of the season. If you're carrying a piece of hardware home with you for the to put in the trophy case, so that's the ultimate goal. So, but I think those 3 teams right now, obviously going into the first weekend of the season, are the 3 elite teams in South Jersey. Now 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and go right on down the list. Those teams are not that far behind. And like you said, on a week-to-week basis, things are going to change. And just because you're number 1 this week doesn't mean you're number 1 next week. And, teams like St. Joe Hamilton, like a Moorestown, Camden Catholic, Paul VI, those are all teams that at some point in the season may elevate themselves to number 1. So, we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's a huge road to travel, but it's going to be good, and it's going to be exciting.
One of the great things about basketball, Kevin, is that there's so many good sort of showcases and tournaments throughout the season. I mean, you got in January, you got the Seagull Classic, then you have the Cancer Tournament at St. Augustine. Then you have the Battle by the Bay at Atlantic City in early February. So there's a lot of chances for these teams to play really good competition. That's what really makes basketball exciting in South Jersey. Yeah,
and throw into that the Jeff Coney Classic at RV. Throw into that the Holy Cross Prep showcase that had been at Bishop Eustace the past couple of years. There are showcase events every weekend, especially once we get past the holidays. So, and don't discount what's going on with the Boardwalk Basketball Classic, which kind of, gets things going as well as, this weekend's Jimmy V and the PBA. So, there are things every weekend, and that's what's great about high school basketball. You can play your league games during the week, during the school week, and then on Saturdays and Sundays, you get to play these elite games where you can go and like you said, you got $6 or $5, or if you're lucky enough, you don't have to pay, and you can just, if you're a basketball junkie who wants to see what probably are the better teams and the better matchups, go sit in a gym. You can go sit in a gym for 10 hours if you want, because they're out there. They're going to be out there, and that's just the showcases in our part of the state. You travel up north, and you can really see some high quality basketball with teams from major schools out of state. So like I said, there's showcases every weekend. It's basically throw them up on the wall, throw a dart at it, and then pick where you want to go.
We're going to turn into gym rats until the rains of March come. So
that's okay. That's all right. I don't mind.
Yeah, man, it's going to be some great basketball. We appreciate you taking a few minutes this morning, and we'll talk more about some of these showcase events coming up in the next few weeks.
Hey, it sounds good, Sully. Thanks again for your time.
Appreciate it, Kev.
Have a good weekend.
You too, man.